So let's review addition and subtraction of positive and negative numbers now. So first thing to remember is 3 plus 2 is the same thing as 2 plus 3. So addition is what we call commutative. You're just combining the numbers, and it doesn't matter which one you do first. Now when we get to subtraction, the same thing is not true. You cannot say 3 minus 2 is the same thing as 2 minus 3 because it's not. So take away 1. If you are adding numbers, it doesn't matter what order you add them in. But if you are subtracting numbers, you have to keep them in the order. So let's go back to addition. 5 plus 2, they're both positive. Signs are the same. So you just add and keep the sign. But you knew that. All right, over here, negative 5 plus negative 2. Well, once again, the signs are the same. So you're going to add the numbers and keep the sign. So that would be negative 7. All right, so let's think about what happens when you have different signs. If I have negative 5 and then I combine that with a positive 2, well, those are two numbers going the opposite direction. So they're going to overlap. So what you do to find the answer is you actually subtract. And I know that's confusing when I just told you to add, but actually what you're doing is you are combining terms. So the sign just tells you the direction. All right, so if I go negative 5 and then come back positive 2, what is that going to leave me with? Negative 3. Another way to look at it is, if your signs are different, you subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So down here, I've got a positive 5 and a negative 2. If I follow that guideline, subtract the two numbers, 5 minus 2 is 3, and take the sign of the larger number. The larger number is 5. So, same signs, add and keep the sign. Different signs, subtract and take the sign of the larger number. Okay, now let's go to subtraction. Like I said, you can't swap the numbers here, so think of it as a sign belongs to the number that's right behind it. So those minus signs belong to whatever number is behind it, and you just can't flip-flop. Another thing is, if you have minus a negative, that's the same thing as plus. Think of it this way. If you have negative $5 in your bank account and you want to take it away, how would you do that? Well, you would go to your bank. The way to take away a negative 5 is to add $5 in. All right, so let's look at this. 5 minus 2, you're just going to subtract and get positive 3. All right, 5 minus negative 2. Here I can use the minus and negative is equal to plus. So these two cancel each other out. Now I just have 7. Look at it on a number line. If you go positive 5 in that direction, then what are you going to do? You're going to go 2 more. So here was 5. Now you wind up at 7 since those cancel out. All right, let's look down here. You can also call this, and I'm sure you've all heard of it, keep, change, change. So you're going to keep this like it is. You're going to change this to plus and change this to negative. Now you have negative 5 plus negative 2, and you can use your addition rules. Same signs, add and keep the sign. All right, let's look down here. We're going to keep, change, change. I'm going to keep this like it is. I'm going to change this to a plus, and I'm going to change that to a positive. So negative 5 plus 2, once again, I'm using my addition rules. I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. All right, let's try one more, or a couple more. Let's do 10 plus negative 2. What is that? It's addition, so you're going to subtract, since the signs are different, and take the sign of the larger number. So that would be positive 8. All right, what about negative 10 minus 2? We can do keep this like it is, change this to a plus, and change this to a negative. So it's negative 12. So first thing to do is ask yourself, am I adding or subtracting? And then lock into the rules for which one you're doing.